chatting because this will make it less madly awkward and we're not just randomly staring into space. So
Okay.
I think now we're live!
We're
Hey!
live! Brock Lesnar has kind of failed cashing in his Money in the Bank briefcase at Super Showdown. He failed to cash in. That means he never physically handed over the briefcase to the referee. It wasn't a failed cash in like how you enable the contract.
Like Baron Corbin.
Like Baron Corbin did, where he didn't pin the champion off the back of handing over the contract. It was a literal, okay, I'm going to cash in my briefcase now. The stage is set. Baron Corbin hit Seth Rollins with the End of Days at the end of their match, which opened the main card, just as WrestleVotes reported they would earlier in the day. The only difference is WrestleVotes said that Brock Lesnar would successfully cash in, so hand over the contract, and they would have a match that ended in a no DQ. An awful, awful finish. But WWE managed to come up with something just as bad.
Yeah, so Paul Heyman, as he was going into the ring with... so Lesnar walks down to the ring, all cocky sure, because, hey, Baron Corbin's just laid him out with the End of Days. I've got this sorted. And he's walking down the ring. They're all smiling. Heyman's about to step into the ring, and he trips over. He falls into the ring, and in doing so, drops the briefcase. And that allows Seth Rollins to low blow Lesnar and then unloads on him with a chair multiple times and then just leaves. So... Brock said he was going to cash in on Friday. WWE essentially, effectively told you, watch Super Showdown, Brock is cashing in. Is it false advertising if he did intend to cash in, but Seth stopped him?
You know what? If it was a one-off, I would say no. But this is now 3 weeks since Brock Lesnar won the Money in the Bank briefcase, a match he was not even in, which feels, granted, big shock. But also kind of feels a bit cheated and not well set up and a little bit grubby and grimy. But fair enough, that was a fun shock. He might cash it in soon, or at least announce when he's going to cash it in. But we've had 3 consecutive Raws and really the SmackDowns of those weeks. So 7 episodes of TV where they say he's going to do it this week. He's going to announce something. He's going to do some action regarding the briefcase, and it never happens. And the most ludicrous extent of this was on this Monday's episode of Raw, the Go Home show for Super Showdown, where Brock Lesnar had Rollins beat down to a pulp in the middle of the ring. Rollins was stretchered out, ambulanced off to a local medical facility with his real-life girlfriend, Becky Lynch, because realism. And Seth Rollins just turns up, broadly fine.
He had a couple of bandages. He had a bit of an owie that he would occasionally sell.
I'd go like this. Oh. And then do a dive. So it was not a good match between Seth Rollins and Baron Corbin. Never really bought into Seth being that injured. Baron Corbin was more obsessed with arguing with the referee. We're going to have a rematch between the two at Stomping Ground. Don't worry. But yeah, I didn't like the match that started it because Corbin, I don't buy him in that position. And the whole angle that came afterwards, the goofy Paul Heyman trip over the second rope and fumbling the briefcase into the ring. It was just... And the low blow again from Seth Rollins, which is kind of better in this scenario, but that mirrors off the WrestleMania 35 match. It's just... So to answer your question, in this isolation moment, I think it's fine. In the larger scheme of this, I as a fan, feel worked over to the extent where I'm frustrated with the company rather than the characters.
And we're now in a situation where we're just going to get more weeks of this. More weeks of Brock possibly cashing in, Brock threatening to cash in, Brock saying he's going to cash in, Brock not cashing in. And is just doing that week after week after week going to be a big ratings killer for them? Because there's only so many times you can say it's going to happen and not deliver. Yeah.
And yet that Brock Lesnar very much still has the briefcase. Michael Cole clearly said the briefcase wasn't cashed in. It's still in play.
Yeah.
But Seth Rollins gave Brock Lesnar a pretty mean-looking stomp at the end onto the briefcase.
Brock took it like an absolute champ.
Yeah, which Brock took very, very hard way, and his back was cut up. But that wasn't the only thing that happened on the show. We'll have our full review up shortly. These are just the headline points. Goldberg versus Undertaker was the main event.
I think this was Matt Riddle's favourite match.
It started off cool. They had stare downs. Goldberg hit 2 spears right out the gate, which was big. Then Undertaker sat up, and you're like, oh my god, they might book this really well to get round each guy's limitations. And then knee bar.
Yeah, that knee bar was not great, and then Goldberg busted himself open. So we think, because Goldberg had he had blood coming from his head right at the start, so it could have been like a pre-cut that they'd done. That then there was meant to go much worse when he hit the second turnbuckle, like off missing like a little spear thing.
Or he just headbutted the locker as he is wont to do before coming out, and he
time.
created a boo-boo on his head.
But he also had a big gash on the top of his head as well, and blood started pouring from that. I don't know if that affected the rest of this match. It felt like they went home early because they tried to do the jackhammer and they just dropped each other. They tried to do the tombstone. That wasn't working either.
It was like that spot where you pick, like Goldberg was picking up Taker to hit a jackhammer or a tombstone on Taker, and then Taker would flip over the back and lift Goldberg up into a tombstone.
Yes, that's it.
But it completely failed.
They just both fell down, and then Taker ended it with a choke slam befitting of his one on Hulk Hogan in 2002, where Hogan didn't jump for it whatsoever. And it's so bad it's edited off the network.
It was a choke push.
Yeah, it was a choke
down
push.
Into the ground.
It was really embarrassing. It was really sad. I just seen Pacitti on Twitter saying it was the saddest thing he's watched, seeing 2 of his childhood heroes just fumbling around in the ring. And it's like what happened. It was the tag match last year. The tag match last year felt really sad.
Yeah, and embarrassing. And after the match, Taker just sat up. Goldberg was out of there like a shot. Taker just sat up, and the camera was on his face, and he looked annoyed. He looked annoyed with himself. He looked begrudging to be there. He genuinely had that look on his face where it's like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
So that was, I'd say, a big disappointment.
Huge disappointment.
But, of course it was going to be. Those 2 guys can't really wrestle anymore.
Yeah.
We've known that for years.
Well, I think Goldberg still can. Which is based on this match, you'd say no, but his matches with Brock Lesnar were great.
It was 2 years ago, and it amounted to a total in-ring time of 7 minutes.
Then do a 5-minute match.
Yeah. Also, the lunacy doesn't stop there. We had Shane McMahon beating Roman Reigns. I think this was one of those matches where we all agreed Reigns wins.
LOL.
No. Drew McIntyre ran in, hit a Claymore on Reigns while Shane had the referee distracted, and then McMahon pinned Roman.
Yeah, and we're getting Roman versus Drew at Stomping Rounds. I think we're probably going to get Roman versus Shane at SummerSlam in a big blow-off match, I guess, because it's the feud that everyone is massively into at the moment, which just means, when's that, August? 2 more months then of the Omni Shane across Raw and SmackDown with Roman and Drew and Elias just on both shows.
Bobby Lashley, the revival.
Just weeks on ends, just doing the same old shtick week after week.
Yeah.
It doesn't scream, this is going to turn the ratings around.
No. And the only other real bit of news here, which was probably the most positive, this was, if you said Mansoor's winning that 50-man battle royal, I would have been, oh my God. But actually, turned out to be the best part of the night. Mansoor is a Saudi Arabian wrestler who currently wrestles for NXT. If you remember last year's Greatest Royal Rumble, they had a segment where they had 4 Saudi Arabian wrestlers in the ring who were going to get signed to NXT contracts. And then I think Sean Daivari and Arya Daivari came out, and they had a sort of bit of xenophobic jaw-jacking back and forth between them and Iran, I want to say. And of all those 4, Mansoor was the one who showed the most charisma, and he was actually very good on the mic. And he was so hidden in this match. I don't know how good in ring-wise he is, but there were 50 guys in this match.
He had a match on NXT a couple of weeks ago that was terrific. I really, really enjoyed it. And like, if you go back and watch our NXT review, I was raving about it. I was like, he's great. There's a lot of upside with Mansoor. I don't know if this is, we were talking about this on the live stream, whether this means a main roster call-up for Mansoor, if this is going to lead to anything, or if it's just done for this sort of isolation thing. It's the home country pop, and then Mansoor can go back to NXT, and they'll just cart him out whenever they do more Saudi shows.
But what a home country pop, because Elias had come out before the match got underway and did his usual heel shtick on the crowd, and then it came down to Elias, this guy who's clearly set out as a heel, and the hometown babyface. And there was a spot, the skin the cat spot. Mansoor looked like he was going to be eliminated, but he gets in, throws out Elias. The crowd went nuclear. People are jumping up and down. Crying, some kids were. Some adults were as well. Mansoor jumps into the crowd. A wonderful moment. And the only other bit from that match is, much like how Luke Harper returned from injury in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal at WrestleMania, and Emma Moon just randomly also returned from injury in the women's version at WrestleMania, we got AOP's Akam.
He's back. Yeah. Back in the wrestling ring. There was a report that came out, I think it was last week or the week before, that he was now medically cleared, but it was unconfirmed. Guess we got the confirmation now. He's back, and and they had a sort of a 3-team stare-off between the Authors of Pain, Viking Raiders, and Heavy Machinery. That's a bit of NXT synergy there. So maybe they're going to be doing something on that. But I guess they'll do AOP versus the War Raiders because they're both on Raw.
Yeah, well, wild card.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Well, that's all we've got time for this video. We'll be back with...
thank you for your Super Chats. We're going to save those because we're about to record our full review, a breakdown of Super Showdown. So we'll save all of your Super Chats for that.
A super breakdown. But please click the videos that have just appeared on the desk to catch up with the latest WrestleTalk awesome things, and this button right here, which will make you a pledge hammer on our Patreon page. I've been Ollie Davis, this has been Luke Owen, and that was wrestling.